Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abbey.
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abbey podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I'm your host. My name is Abby. Welcome back. Today we are talking about something very relatable, I think, for every person in this life. And we spoke on it a couple of weeks ago a little bit, but I'm coming at it at a little bit of a different angle today. And I wanted to talk about forgiving yourself and how hard it can be, how often we probably have to do this to have any little slice of peace. I know for me, I sometimes think that I'm like, okay, I forgave myself for that and we moved on. And I forget that I have to keep coming back and forgiving myself over and over again because I do an OCD compulsion, or I ruminate, or kind of get confused a little bit in my mind, and I might just think about something the wrong way or be confused and mess up, make mistakes, not take care of myself in one way or another, and that happens all the time. And when I'm not forgiving myself and taking time to really, really forgive myself, it just keeps getting heavier and heavier until I realize that I have a lot of self-loathing and I don't know where it's coming from. It can be a very hard thing to do. It never feels like we are okay to do it for ourselves because it feels like we're letting ourselves off the hook. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today, as well as I wanted to share a little bit of, I guess, a story or just my life's something that's happened to me in my life that I wanted to share, I guess. I don't know why I'm saying it so weird, but when you harden yourself and when you put up really thick walls and what that kind of looks like and how that starts to get thicker and thicker. And I think they kind of coincide with forgiving yourself and breaking those walls down, or feeling safe enough to break those walls down. So I could talk about breaking your walls down all day. I think it's a very huge, important, huge life shift, like mindset, perspective shift, which is like opening. And some people, like for me, when I say closed or harden or turn to bitterness, like to me that makes sense. Like I know exactly what that feels like and how that comes up. But maybe to some people they like don't understand what I mean when I say that. So hopefully it makes sense, because I'm just mostly talking about closing off, like closing yourself off from the world, from people, from connection to loved ones, and even to yourself. And sometimes we're like so stuck in this closed off place where we almost don't even realize that's what's going on until maybe it's brought to our attention or we go to therapy or something. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to go over Dubs and L's from this week, and then we'll get into a Dear Abby at the end of the episode. My dub for this week is that I downloaded Hogwarts Legacy, which is a Harry Potter based PC game. It's on Steam. And it's on sale. I think it's like an October, or I don't know, like autumn, fall, October deal. It's like a fall deal or something on Steam. But I bought it because it's way cheaper, and I downloaded it and I've been playing, and it is like one of my favorite games that I've played in a long time. The way the combat works, I'm going to nerd out for a second. The way the combat works, I think, is really smart. I get bored if it's the same button that you click over and over and over again. I like when there's combo moves, and there's a lot of combo moves when you're in combat and when you're fighting, which is fun because then you can spice things up. You can like have cool moves. The ult thing, like the ultimate power or whatever, that is really cool. as well as it's like a huge world. Whoever, I don't remember who created it. I think it's Warner Bros. Created it, or Warner Games, I think. I think they did a really great job with that game. So far, I have no complaints. I always wish that I could customize my characters a little, like down to where every freckle is on their face, because that's what I love doing that in games like this. So I wish there's a little bit more customization, but I'm satisfied. I'm happy. My character, I kind of made her look like what I would think that Keaton and I's daughter would look like. And that's because the default girl had like red hair, like strawberry blondish hair, strawberry brunette hair. And that's kind of what Keaton has. So I don't know. I was like, oh, this is cute. And so I kind of made her a mix of both of us. And she's so adorable. And I weirdly got emotional because I'm like, one day I hope that we get to have a child. And I want to know what she's going to look like. And then I was thinking she's going to be like a full grown adult someday. And I'll get to watch her grow up like I did and watch her do all of these cool things, like get married, have a career, get good at whatever, I don't know, whatever she wants to do. Like, I'm just excited to watch her become herself. And so that was weird because it's just a computer game. And then I was getting all emo while I'm like playing and stupefying everything. And then the world is just huge. Like there's so many details. There's so many small little corners of Hogwarts, and at Hogsmeade, the forest, the Forbidden Forest. It's just they really put a lot of. I think they put a lot of effort into it, but I haven't played an open world game in a long time. The last game I played was Genshin Impact. That was open world like that. And that almost got too big. Like Genshin Impact kind of got too big and too overwhelming because there's too many things you could do, which is like fun, but also as somebody who likes to get every tiny little reward, quest, challenge, collection you can get, I want to do all of those. So as somebody who likes to do that in games, it's very stressful to have too big of a world because then I don't know how to get all of it, and so I just don't even want to play. Anyways, all that being said, great game. I'm having a lot of fun. And then my L is I wish that I could play with somebody in that game as well. I really wish that I could play with like Keaton or my brother or somebody. Another L is my knees have been really achy, and I've been trying to strengthen them by doing like backward sled poles. I don't know why I said that with that accent. Backward sled poles. Oh, it sounds weird. Backward sled poles. Because I guess those are good for your knees. And so I've been trying to do those to strengthen my knees. Anyways, I've kind of fallen off that, so that's probably why they feel weak. But I try to do like a dance workout because I'm still trying to do that. I don't know if you guys remember, and if you're new, I feel really weird and awkward dancing, and I just don't feel like I can like take up space. I don't feel pretty when I dance. I feel like heavy and like chompy. I don't know if that makes sense. And like something's not right when I dance. So I've been trying to like take that back because it's my body. I can do whatever I want. I don't want to listen to those thoughts. And so I've been doing like dance workouts on YouTube. I find a bunch of different people and I do their dance workouts and I find the people I like. I've been recently doing, her name is MadFit, MADFIT. When I do the dancing, my knees start to hurt. So I'm having to like pull it back a little bit. That's my random L, I guess, for this week. So that being said, let's get into the meat of today's episode. There is a quote that you probably have seen before. If you're anything like me, all your Instagram reels, when you do allow yourself to kind of doom scroll or just scroll for a little bit, mine are either recipes, videos of like couple funny videos because I just like to send those to my husband, or most of them are like a little bit of a dramatic anime thing with like a quote or some kind of quote from some philosopher, from someone smart, guy, girl, who has a lot of quotes, okay? A lot of really inspirational, a little bit of drama quotes. And that's what I like to watch. And so if you're anything like me, you've probably seen this before, and you probably remember this quote from Mr. Rogers about forgiving yourself. But it really struck a chord with me, and it made me stop and reflect on how hard am I really being on myself, and am I actually forgiving myself for my past? And it's not just like the small things. It's like the big things. Like, I've been through a divorce, and sometimes some of those feelings come up of like, I don't know, I feel like I have to forgive myself for some reason for getting a divorce. I definitely haven't fully forgiven myself for some of that stuff. And I think it really has an effect on how I think of myself, as well as how I move through this life and my perspective on everything. And I don't want it to judge. I don't want it to like hinder anything. So the quote, this is just a shortened version of it, but he says, "The toughest thing is to love somebody who has done something mean to you, especially when that somebody has been yourself." Mr. Rogers. I actually have a really easy time forgiving other people. For whatever reason, I'm just like, yeah, no, like, I understand, no one's perfect, and I forgive you, and like, I just want to move past. I don't like to dwell on things that long with other people, but I find it very difficult to forgive myself. And I think it's because I've learned so much in the past couple of years, like about life, about myself, about others. I've grown a lot in some ways, but in other ways, I'm kind of the same. And what I get stuck with is, if I have learned so much and I have grown so much, I still make some of the same mistakes I always have. And that hits heavy because I feel like I know better now. We do stuff to ourselves all the time. Maybe we've learned something and we understand something now, but then we still, like, our actions aren't matching up to what we understand. And so there's like this guilt or this like shame that kind of comes with that. And that's an important thing to look at and pay attention to. But I think one of the first steps to like change, or the first steps to letting that go, is to forgive yourself. Yeah, I think mostly it's the gap of what what you've understood, what you've learned, and then what you're doing. That in between does make us feel some type of way, either guilty, shameful. I think within that space, there can be excitement on there is more for me to learn. There is room for growth. And I'm also very much still learning. There is more that I need to understand, or more that I can learn. So sometimes when we shut ourselves off, like, I already know this, I don't think that lets us receive anything, because now we're just like, well, I should have already known this. I should already do this. And all that does, I feel like, is kind of shut off this openness to learning, to growing, to understanding, deeper understanding. Like, you might not have the deepest understanding of something. There might be more to understand. So I think when you know something, again, and you're not living up to that, or when you're not doing that, I think that's where you can get stuck, not forgiving yourself for those shortcomings. But you can forgive yourself for that, for not doing what you probably should be doing. You can acknowledge that, and you can want to do better, and still forgive yourself for not doing that in the past, and for not doing it now, and for probably not doing it in the future. There's definitely a balance of, I don't know if it's a balance. It's like you have to fully forgive yourself for messing it up, for not doing what you should be doing. You got to fully forgive yourself, and then you fully start to do better. So I guess it's not like 50-50. It's like you fully forgive yourself, and then you fully start to commit to doing better in whatever situation. And that's not to expect perfection out of you, because then you'll probably get stuck in the same loop, and you probably will, because we all get stuck in the same loops over and over and over again. But then at least have it be a loop where then you are able to forgive yourself and let yourself move on from your mistakes and your self-sabotage. And then that way, at least that's part of the process, and that's part of the loop. Definitely don't remove that part of the loop. So then I think the next question is, how do we forgive ourselves? And that is a tougher one. That I was trying to think of, how do we forgive ourselves, and how have I forgiven myself in the past? And for me, it's like I have to write it out. I have to pray about it. I have to meditate on it. For me, what's really helpful is, just because I believe that there is a God, and that he can like cleanse us, and he can give us peace if we turn to him and if we let him in. And so I like to do that. And I feel like that's a way for me to be able to actually forgive myself and kind of be freed of it. And also part of that process for me is figuring out what I'm not forgiving myself for and just being curious about what's going on and writing things down. If I'm like, what have I not forgiven myself for? And I sit there for a little bit and I just ponder this. And a lot of people in books, like self-help books, have talked about this. Obviously, you're being self-reflective, but sitting in the silence of like you ask yourself a question. I think it's in like a Jordan Peterson book or something that I read a while ago. I don't know. I just feel like in a lot of books, it talks about this moment where you can ask yourself something and then you kind of sit in silence and you will probably have something come to your head. And maybe that's not totally it, but just write it down and be curious about it. Ask yourself more questions. You'll most likely get some answers. And something that's important is when you're not in this state of self-reflection, it can be hard to go into that state. So one thing that is good about writing or expressing or talking to someone or praying is that you are expressing these things. You're letting these things off of your chest, literally. You're taking in all of these thoughts and everything that you've been feeling, thinking, maybe that feels stuck. You're finally kind of releasing it. And once you open that, I feel like more things will start to come to the surface and you'll start to think of more and more and more. Sometimes this can be kind of a stressful thing to do, to be honest. There's a reason why a lot of us don't want to feel these things or think about these things, because they can actually be obviously very painful. We might have to feel some really negative feelings with those, and that's not fun. And it's not fun for me. I avoid those things like the plague, but I know better, which is actually funny because that's one of those things that I know better. I know how to handle my emotions and how I need to move through them, but I still struggle with actually doing that for whatever reason. And I want to forgive myself for that, for knowing better and not doing better, because that is like a painful thing to realize. And so that is something that I probably need to forgive myself for, because we all do that. It might look like everybody else is doing everything perfectly and they have their life all together and they're making all the right decisions and everything's making sense to them and they've got it all figured out, and that they're perfectly emotionally aware of everything, that they have financial stability or whatever it is. But we all continuously make mistakes. Everybody does. There's so much that there is to learn. And so that rigid way of thinking is not helpful to actually being able to move on and learn and extend our minds and our hearts and everything like that. So if you're somebody that has a hard time forgiving yourself and letting yourself let go of things that you did or that you struggle with, what's helpful, which is what my therapist once did, but for something totally different, but it's always helpful to think about, how would you treat somebody else with this? If somebody comes to you with a mistake that they made, or if somebody's struggling with something, what would you say to them? How would you feel towards them? What would you think will help them? How do you feel towards helping them? And then try to shift that perspective towards yourself and be curious about if you would think the same things about yourself and why wouldn't you be allowed to? Also, some people probably have an easy time forgiving themselves, but have a hard time forgiving other people. I think there's like there's multiple, everyone's a little bit of a mix. I don't know if it's like all one or all the other, but so if you're somebody that does have an easy time forgiving yourself, like actually forgiving yourself and moving on, do you practice that with other people as well? Because that's also a good thing to do, because it never feels good. I like to think about, if somebody kept holding me to mistakes that I made, I would feel so stuck in a box. Like I would feel like I'm stuck in jail, and heart jail is how I would feel. My heart wouldn't feel like I'm able to extend it past the jail bars if somebody kept pushing me into that corner and saying, you are this, you are that. Remember when you did this, remember when you did that, this is all you are. Nobody likes that being thrown back in your face over and over again. It doesn't feel good, and it's not very kind. So I think about it the same with other people. If I'm constantly throwing things back at somebody after they've probably already said sorry, after they've tried to move on from it, and if especially in like a close relationship or with your spouse or significant other in close relationships, we tend to sometimes hold on to things more because we feel more threatened if they do it again, because we're with them all the time and they're a big part of our lives. But I don't think that is healthy. I don't think that is helpful. to us having a connection with them and for things to progress in a positive way. Because I know I've held on to things that my husband has done when we were dating and even now. And it's like so easy to hold on to stuff. And I think that comes with your life experiences and what you've experienced with other people in relationships. But it does not feel good at all to be on the receiving end of somebody constantly bringing stuff up you already said sorry for, you already tried to move past. And especially if it's not like these huge, significant things. Like it's not like there's infidelity and stuff, because sometimes people do need to process things over and over again. So they might bring things up again. And if you did something to a big extent, you're going to have to be okay with that. And you're going to have to be okay with just like taking it, if that's something that they need to do to process and to like fully forgive and move past. But for most things, it's like small things, like you forget something, or for most things, it's smaller actions that hurt the other person's feelings, which can feel big to the other person. So I'm not saying it's not important or it's not big, but they're not going to be things that doesn't warrant somebody having to reprocess over and over again and bring it up and throw it back into your face, especially if you already said sorry for it. So anytime I think about what if someone did that to me, I'm like, I hate that. Feels so yucky when someone does that to me, and I never want to make somebody feel like that. So I'm not going to do that to other people as much as I can help it, which can help me forgive other people as well as forgive myself, just if I'm in that type of a mindset versus like holding on to everything wrong everybody does. Because it's very easy sometimes to slip into that mindset of focusing on everything bad that everyone's doing. And that's how you slowly kind of become bitter and negative and cynical. But you don't have to. You can choose the other way. And no one's forcing you to forgive, I think, is the other thing. Like that's a very conscious decision that you make to forgive yourself and to others. And I think that's what's so powerful about it. So going back to how do you forgive yourself, I think that's for you to find out. Like I don't have a bunch of steps. I had like the journal thing you can pray at, but I feel like you probably have forgiven yourself before in your life. And so think back to that and what did you do? How did you do that? And it's just different for everybody. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was just almost like a visual story of what it's like to slowly let your walls come down. And I wanted to share like kind of what that has looked like for me. And this is kind of random, but sometimes I'll be thinking and reflecting about my life, about life in general, about other people, my relationships. And something that came to my mind was like growing up, slowly I kind of put walls in between me and other people. Like even my mom, my dad, like I slowly just built walls up between my siblings. I was a sensitive girl. So when somebody called me a name, even jokingly, like that really hurt me. Didn't feel good. So I put those walls up, didn't act like myself, didn't let myself like just let loose, have fun. Not all the time, but I think it's just like slowly it just got more and more like I just want to be alone. Because I had OCD, so I had all these intrusive thoughts. So I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Like I'm different than everybody else in this world. I should disconnect myself because I'm dangerous. I'm a weirdo. You name it. Like I probably thought about it about myself. And so that's going to create some walls. And then the second thing was my divorce. A part of me felt super confident through my divorce. Like I know what I deserve and I don't deserve this. And I knew that. My parents taught me that. My parents taught me that. That's how I was raised, is like, don't let anyone make you feel bad about yourself. But at the same time, when you have someone that's that close to you and then they betray you like that and then they really hurt you, that's going to create some walls. And I didn't actually, I was like so unconscious of the walls that were created during that relationship, a little bit before, but then especially after. And I think a representation of this is when I would hug somebody, I would keep my eyes open. When I would be held by Keaton, like my husband, when we were just dating or something, I wouldn't just like allow myself to get hugged and like close my eyes and feel it and be present with him and feel him. And this is one example. There's many different things that it can look like, I'm sure. But for me, it was like I would hug somebody and I would put my walls up. And I would almost like, it's like a very physical sensation for me. And I would like close off my heart, give them a hug, but also be on guard. And I'd be in my head thinking like, did they do something today? Like, are they guilty of anything? Am I guilty of anything? It was like when I would when I would hug people, especially my now husband, but my boyfriend at the time, it was like I couldn't just be held and I couldn't hold somebody. There was this part that was constantly on a hamster wheel trying to figure out why this wasn't okay and why I shouldn't do this is how it felt. And so I'd hug people, I'd hug my boyfriend, and my eyes would just kind of be open. And that sounds so creepy. Like I'm picturing, for some reason, my body gives me the weirdest image of just like eyes wide open and hugging. But it's more like, even if I did close my eyes, it's like more of a way to express, like, I'm not letting myself feel this. It feels dangerous to let myself feel this. And it doesn't even feel like it's true. So I didn't want to let myself get hurt. And it was like over and over and over again for years. I didn't want to be held. Any type of like holding me, it just sent me into my brain. It was almost an immediate like, I'm being held by somebody I know that loves me, who's like trying to be with me and be emotionally available and stuff. And I'm like sending myself to my head. I don't know how to explain it. And I like refuse to like feel safe or like feel, oh my gosh, my voice is so raspy, to feel safe. And it was like that for years. And I think it was a little bit like that growing up too. Like in high school, like I didn't want to get close to people because I just got hurt. And I felt misunderstood a lot. And so it was just painful almost to open myself up. I didn't want somebody to reject me again because I didn't want someone to see me fully and then just totally reject me. And that can be so exhausting. So I know that there are so many people out there who experience this probably still or have in the past. I just want to say, like, I just want to validate that it's such a real experience and it's not easy to get past. And it's not like your fault for being that way. And it's not your fault for getting that way. Like sometimes life just happens and it keeps happening. And before you're even aware of what's happening, you have closed yourself off and you don't let people in and you're hurt. And so that's why you are closing yourself off, because you are hurt by something or someone. So it's very important to forgive yourself and also just like remind yourself it's not all your fault. You know, like not everything in your life that's bad is your fault. Life is like chaos with a little bit of order. Or maybe the other way around. No, I think it's like chaos with a little bit of order. So it's not all your fault. So with that being said, after keeping my eyes open for all my hugs and just like refusing to feel anything positive, I still struggle with this. I still really struggle with letting myself just like be present and not have to go in my head and think about something or try to protect from something in the future about to happen, especially in my relationship. And my husband is very patient with me, and he obviously knows my history, and he knows me, so he knows how like my past has affected me, and he's very patient. But it's still really hard for me to feel that way, obviously. And so we do our best. We try to change those habits. We try to open our hearts in some ways, and I talk about that a ton on this podcast. But we don't always do it perfectly, and we still have things that are residue from our past. And we are not robots that change overnight. We are humans, and we have feelings that linger. We have bodies that remember. I was learning about fascia and how fascia holds on to our trauma, and that's like everywhere in our body, and it's connected to nerves or something. And so you're not crazy, and it's not all your fault. So another thing that I didn't want to do because it felt vulnerable is like laugh with other people. I don't know where this ended, but I don't like to belly laugh with people. That is like the saddest thing I've ever said, but except for with my siblings, and that took a while to get there again. With friends and other people, I find it so vulnerable to like laugh with them, like really laugh, like where you're uncontrollably laughing kind of a thing. And so it's hard for me to get there and feel like vulnerable in that way, because that is a vulnerable thing for me, I guess, is like laughing, really laughing. It's also kind of a scary world. Like I'm scared to make any jokes because I genuinely don't want to offend people, but also sometimes it's like okay to have humor be a coping mechanism. I don't think that's bad. You just got to be careful. You just got to be tasteful. And I didn't realize how hard my how many walls I had up until one time Keaton did something where I don't know what it was or what we were laughing at, but I remember belly laughing. And like I tried, you guys, I tried to hold it in. I tried to be like, I don't even care. I don't want to laugh. Like, I don't want to show you that I think that you're that funny. That it's so sad, but that's how sometimes like that mindset can get. Anyways, and so I got to a point though where I couldn't hold it and I started dying laughing. And then we both were dying laughing together. And I've never experienced that with a guy before, where I felt comfortable to like be belly laughing and look and feel like kind of like a maniac and a monster because full mouth open, like peeing my pants almost, crying, laughing. I remember this like physical sensation of like finally I felt like my walls came down for a second. And of course, a couple minutes after, they immediately went right back up and I got back into my head, unfortunately. But those moments have to happen way more often now. And I'm practicing letting that happen. And if I get rejected, then so what? You know, like, yes, it freaking hurts me. But I don't want to live my life closed off forever because I'm not happy that way either. And I don't want to change who I am because I've been hurt. Like, that's like a tale as old as time. And it's a tale because it's so hard not to. And I also remember Keaton is so forgiving of me. Like, he is so forgiving and he moves on from things really fast. And that is so refreshing to me. It makes me feel like I can breathe. And there have been times where now when I do get a hug or give a hug, I'm able to be held and hold other people and just be present for longer. It doesn't always stay. It's not every time. It's not like it's this huge thing every time. But when I was once stuck in my head only analyzing, trying to protect, now has turned into I can be present. I can receive the hug. I can feel connected. And then sometimes my brain kind of goes back to that place and it's more of a struggle, and it's still a struggle, but it happens a lot more often where I can close my eyes when I hug and just like receive the hug. And that sounds like a small thing, but it's a really big thing for me, at least. So anyways, I wanted to share that for some weird reason because it was just in my head. And I really want to make an art piece, or I wish I could animate because I want to animate something like that. So if you're an animator, animate that for me. But give me some kind of credit of just like to represent like that feeling that a lot of people have had where you're just like, you get a hug and you don't hug back almost. Your light is kind of going out and then eventually your light comes back and then you're able to hug and like close your eyes. And I don't know if that makes any sense or if I sound like a freaking lunatic. Okay, let's do Dear Abby and then we'll end today's episode.
I do actually have a question. I'm afraid it doesn't have to do with anything OCD related because honestly I'm scared to unleash my vault of questions on you. There's too many. But I have always wanted to ask, how did you, and you might have addressed this and maybe I didn't catch this episode, but how did you come up with really just the theme and vibe of your wedding? I feel like I remember Chelsea and JC talking about how you had a couple of descriptor words to really kind of guide your day.
Okay, I don't know if it cuts people off at a certain amount of time. So yeah, I had a couple descriptor words. I think I had 3 that were like the main ones. But I focused on how do I feel about my relationship? Like, what is the theme of like my relationship with my husband? What do I really want to show people? What do I want to show myself? How do I want myself to feel? And what does this like relationship really mean to me? And then from that, I started picking the words, and then I started looking at Pinterest and getting inspo from other people. So I kind of already had some words before I started looking at inspo, but I think looking at other pictures and different vibes, like I really looked at a bunch of different vibes and just whatever felt like that's it. That's like what I want. That's how I want it to feel. That's what I want the vibes to be. Then I made a lot of collages, like for every little part of my wedding for the sweetheart table. I got a bunch of different pictures of sweetheart tables. I circled things that I like, I don't like, and then I kind of cropped things and made a collage out of them and sent them to my florist, who was my best friend, and as well as my decor planner that I worked with. And I did that for almost every little corner of the wedding. And I had the time to do that because we had like 6 months of engagement until we got married. So I had plenty of time. And I am actually lucky because I was married before, so I know what I liked and I know what I didn't really care about for my wedding day. I really focused just on my love for my spouse, and that helped me come up with words and vibes and what I wanted to showcase, how I wanted to showcase our relationship. But yeah, the actual, like, I got a bunch of different photos for each little part of my wedding. And a bunch of inspo, did the collage. And then every little corner of my wedding had like what I wanted it to be, how I wanted it to feel, kind of what I wanted it to look like. But a lot of what I didn't have exact pictures, like inspo pictures. So I kind of had to take different things and add them together and collage them. And then I worked very closely with my florist, like I said. And so I was very lucky with that. But also, if you are hiring a florist or you're hiring somebody for any event, you're hiring them, you're paying them to do something. So just if you have an expectation, tell them and be very clear about it, not in like a mean bratty way. You're paying them for their service. They want you to be like, to know what you want in some way because they want you to really love their work. Like that's probably why they're doing it, is because they like doing it. So I think working closely with whoever if you hired anyone or your florist or your mom or whoever's helping, to just get super aligned on the vibe, the feeling, the aesthetic, the overall theme of it, because then there's going to be more ideas that are thrown out and then you can say no, yes, like just always feel comfortable saying no to something you don't love. And then maybe give constructive criticism why. Like if you actually want ideas from other people, then you can be like, no, like it's because I want more of like this vibe. So that's more this, I want this. And then that maybe can help other people kind of understand what you want. But yeah, that's basically it. Just a lot of Pinterest photos, a lot of being in my feels and looking at pictures of us. So hopefully that makes sense and is helpful. Okay, you guys, well, that is it for today's episode. I'm not going to lie, like I loved being with you guys. I love recording. A part of me is really excited to get off, get like a little treat, little snack, and then go sit and play Hogwarts Legacy, even though my back is killing me right now. So maybe I'll do some stretching and then I'll go play Hogwarts because I want to get this quest done that I didn't get done last night, but it was really close. There's a lot of freaking spiders and they're really taking me off. That's it for today's episode, you guys. I won't say much. And if you're still here and you're still listening, because it's the end of the episode, you get a little bit of a sneak peek of what is to come with Dear Abbey. I'm not changing anything super crazy, but I have a fun idea that I wanted to try out. There's a lot of podcasts that interview famous people, celebrities, very important people to the public eye, well-known people. And that's awesome. And everyone deserves a little interview. But with that, though, I really want to interview ordinary people. I want to interview the everyday, normal people who don't have all this clout and all of these followings, because as much as those people have a lot to say and their voice should be heard, so do other people that don't have like 1 million followers and a bunch of people that know them and hear their story, because everyone has a wonderful story and is extraordinary, and I wanted to hear it. So I'm trying to work that out, but stay tuned for that, because that will either be an add-on episode or it'll take up one of the episodes. And I want it to be like a structured interview that is beneficial for everyone, the listeners, for me, for them. So be looking for that. If you don't follow the Dear Abbey podcast Instagram, go follow it. I have a hard time posting because I'm the production, the editor, the recorder, the everything. So I don't have a lot of free time to really put my love and soul into the Instagram. I just do it on the podcast. So I hope you can accept my humble offering. But I eventually will start posting about that and get people who are curious and who are interested maybe in coming on the podcast. A lot more details to come soon, as well as some other little things that I wanted to do with the podcast. I have a lot of ideas and dreams and things that I want to create and do. So I'm very excited for the future. Anyways, if you want to support the podcast though, right now you can go and leave a rating and a review on Apple or Spotify podcast. You can also go like, subscribe, or comment on YouTube. I love when you guys comment on my YouTube. That's like, I love the YouTube people, the environment. YouTube's like my favorite app ever. As well as if you want me to talk about anything in specific or you have a Dear Abby question, you can text or call the number below and leave a voicemail, or you can just DM me if you want to hear me talk about something, or you just want to send me a Dear Abby question via Instagram DM. I'm up for all of it. So if you want to go above and beyond, you can always post on your story or share with a friend the podcast episode for this week, this episode, if you think somebody will enjoy it. Or if you know somebody that's hard on themselves, that might be a good reminder. I don't know, maybe not. So thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and be kind to yourself, take yourself out, do something fun, and love you guys. Bye. 우회전 taking a ride to journey 눈치 보면서 들어가 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들